What an interesting demo coming before seeing the FOI call there. So yeah, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Matthew Prodan. I'm the product owner for the FOI Modernization project over at the Ministry of Citizen Services. With me is Abin Antony, our principal architect over with AOT Technologies. Maybe before I kick things off, maybe a quick show of hands. Who here has had to actually deal with an FOI request before? Oh, my people. There we go. I'm sorry I'm not going to bring the fun back into FOI, but I'm hoping that what I'm going to show today is going to maybe help the process on a little better for you. So let's talk a bit about our project background. So our project actually kicked off way back in April 2021. Actually only feels like yesterday with how long we've been working in it. It's more than just a legacy application replacement though. We're ultimately looking to modernize the FOI process. How can we make it better, not just for the folks at Information Access Operations and Children and Family Access Services, but for ministry reviewers, and ultimately this leads to benefits to our applicants who drive the request. We of course are taking an agile approach to development using Scrum like many of the teams across government now. And I think as I reflect on that, I'm really proud of the progress the team has made. We actually just had our 100th sprint most recently. And we regularly have these sprint demos in front of well over 100 attendees. And so we're a busy shop, and we have a lot of very interested users and clients that are really excited by the work that the team is doing. Thinking about our product vision, this is something for us that, as I always talk about, as our guiding light for development. It's how we kind of came to this, kicked off in our original sprint, and we brought all of our client ministries and interest holders together and kind of built this product vision together, ultimately looking at a way to streamline the FOI process using modern technology, modern tools, things like process automation, ultimately making things easy to use. When I think about the time before this project, we had ministry clients across government tracking their FOI requests on a variety, what we call a patchwork of tools, whether it be spreadsheets, Microsoft Word documents, some really weird ways they were using to track their requests, and there was a constant back and forth of trying to get people, weekly calls so that I could take my spreadsheet and then you could update your spreadsheet, and we knew this was not a sustainable process long term. And so, I think about, where we are today as a project, and, I'm really, we kicked off in April 2021. We launched a pilot of the application in May of 2022, and as of last year, we had every single ministry across government is now onboarded into our project. So all ministry coordinators across government use the FOI Mod app. We never really came up with a name for it, and people just started calling it FOI Mod, and so I guess that's our name now. And it was a really proud moment for us when we finally got the last ministry onboarded, to finally have a true enterprise application that is, continually we're continuing to improve every day. And of course, I am proud of the work that the team has done, and I'm really proud to share that we also have won an award. Last year, the Ministry of Citizen Services, recognized our project, and we were nominated and won the 2024 Star Award for Guiding Innovation. Definitely a proud moment for myself and the team, but we wouldn't have been able to get there without the hard work of the developers, the service design. I know Craig talked a little bit about the importance of service design. A lot of that hard work we did at the beginning really paid off in spades as we went through. We knew we needed to meet the needs of the users. As I'm sure many of the folks in the room know, we can't necessarily make everyone happy, but when you're taking people from disparate sources of truth to one single source of truth, you're going to make a lot of people happy. You're going to save a lot of time in the process. You're going to ultimately find improvements for people. But just because we won an award doesn't mean the job's done. In fact, we're only getting started. Because of course, we do have big challenges that continue to challenge the process. We're seeing requests of increasing complexity and volume. We receive somewhere in the realm of 2.5 million pages a year or more that have to get processed. And that number isn't going to get any smaller. We recently got told our Outlook inboxes were increased to 100 gigabytes. So If you're someone like me, that might, it was hard enough to stay on top of the 2 or 3 gigs we have. Now we have 100. So you can imagine, what FOI, the volume of records might look like 10 years from now, as storage and files become more accessible and easy to create. Of course, the impact goes far beyond just my teams here that process the FOI requests, the FOI analysts. There's challenges all across government when it comes to FOI, when it comes to ministry reviewers. We know for a fact that ministry executives spend time not just within their busy work days, but outside of their work days just to review and approve large and complex FOI packages. And so this is kind of where we lean into some of the improvements the team is making to really improve the accuracy and efficiency of the process. Because at the end of the day, we still have a legislative deadline. Yes, we have some levers we can pull, but when you're dealing with thousands and thousands of pages of records or a 24,000 page request, which we do have one right now, and it's actually not our biggest request we've ever received. How do you process something like that efficiently, accurately? So thinking about some of the people that work in the process, like our FOI analysts, we know that consistency is important. Consistency brings confidence to the process, and consistency really ensures we're handling government confidential information appropriately and fulfilling our duties not only to the applicant, but also to our client ministries. And so, one of the big problems is how do we make sure that we can improve the consistency in the redaction process? And what we're going to show today is kind of what I think of like a multi-step process and how we're going to try to achieve that vision. And so, looking at one of the first things which Abin will walk you through is around our cross-request text search. And so it was launched just in February and essentially allows our FOI analysts to search the contents of records across all records that have been uploaded to the system. It'll do things like take you right to the request, highlight the information so you can find out where it is and how it's been handled in the past. And that's an important step for ensuring that consistency. Of course, it is a bit of a manual process, and so that's where I start to look ahead to the future and what this is kind of laying the groundwork for. And so we're going to talk a little bit as well about natural language processing, which is our next next step in the solution around how can we make provide analysts smarter suggestions when they're reviewing the records. How do we get those manual tasks out of their workflow to ultimately kind of improve that efficiency? And I think another thing I just want to highlight as well, and something I know Craig had mentioned earlier, it's important that we also have a human in the loop. We're dealing with sensitive information. I don't think anyone's going to sign off on any kind of automatic FOI redaction software because that just, risk is risk, and we need to make sure that there's someone there, validating the results. And so that's an important component in terms of how we're going to build things. But we're going to follow an iterative approach. Like I said, this first step is about getting some of those key figures done. How can we interpret the data, make it searchable and easy to find? How can we highlight it for people? And then as we start moving ahead, how can we start automating some of those things? And so, of course, I'm talking a lot about things from perhaps my team's perspective. As I mentioned earlier, we also know there's also our ministry reviewers, and we don't want to forget about all of you. And we want to and when I'm talking about things like these improvements, the other challenges that we're going to look to tackle as well is how can we bring these innovations not just to the team that processes the thousands and millions of pages of records that we receive in a year, but how can we extend those benefits to those ministry executives that are spending their evenings and weekends reviewing packages? You think about I can imagine how many of you here have actually had to do a harms assessment or a review of a sign-off package, and maybe you saw this record 6 months ago, but you don't remember what you said and you don't have that email anymore. Maybe it's an e-approvals and who knows where that info is anymore. And so you need a way to kind of streamline your own review process. And those are some of the things that we're looking to build towards as part of this project as we look ahead into the future. And so, Yeah, as I just mentioned there, we want to really improve that ease of review, not just for our analysts, but also for ministry reviewers and approvers, because ultimately all these things need to come together to improve the timeliness of FOI request processing, but also create more confidence in the process and the decision making that comes into play. And we think we can achieve that with the help of some of the tools that Abin is about to walk you through. So I'm actually going to hand it over to Abin now. And yeah, Abin, I'll let you take it over from here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. Am I audible? Oh, sorry. Yeah. I know. I will make it fast. I know it's lunch time. And this is the last presentation, so I will make it fast without breaking.
They want to see the good stuff you've done, Abin. It's all good.
The smell is coming from the hallway, so it's more appetizing now. So myself, Abin Antony, I'm the principal architect at AOT Technologies, but I'm deployed with this project for the last 4 years from day one. My job responsibility include solution architecture, build versus buy analysis, estimation. Will go to my product owner for estimation. Once approved, fleets up, get for coding. So there's solution architecture and lead development as well. I'm not extending into that circle because Matt has given a good overview and he has set up the plot correctly. I will start from the review process. You can see the image on the screen, I assume it correctly on this, both the projects. So review. So review is very stringent. It's a tedious job FOI analysts have to go through. From my perspective, most of the time our analysts are getting stuck with manually going through each every page. In my understanding, there are thousands of pages on an average an FOI analyst is analyzing per day. And if we have this kind of documents without having any insights produced in front of them, which is not searchable, or if it is not giving any other reference to other requests, what he or other reviewers have done, what kind of FOIPA section I have to apply on it. So that's making the review process harder, and to the process, FOI process is time mandated. It's 30 business days to respond to the applicant. So that delays the process. So coming into that day, we have to solve this problem by OCR. And OCR exists in this world for decades, right? Because I'm hearing about OCR from my childhood days, but we haven't dived into AI first. We actually set up an in-house on-premise OCR solution, which is the traditional AI. It works with the pattern matching mechanism, as you know. It works fine, but what's the problem with that solution is that it's not accurate. The extensibility of that solution is very, very small, which made us to think about, that was a stopgap mechanism even, and think about a situation like when we do this for millions of pages, and that's what Matt see from his stats, but from a technical guy behind the scene, it's 2.5 million pages per year. When I check with the document size, it's 600 GB to 1.2 terabytes per year. I'm in the middle of document migration from our legacy app. For the last 5 years, starting from 2019, a 5 years mandate for keeping the document, we clocked around 6.3 terabytes on removed. So that's our ecosystem we are speaking about. So this makes, so why I'm telling it, I'm not just boasting about the project, that's how, because we get documents from all the ministries. Sometimes it will be only 1,000-page document, but size is 2 GB. Somebody has scanned it, they just uploaded it, because that's not a job to make it compressed or something, right? So they say upload into our system, and if that is not searchable, that makes the job very tedious. So what I'm going to do is that before I will explain what I have done, I will show the demo, and I will go through the journey after, okay? So let's go to the demo. Okay, so bear with me a moment.
You gotta press.
Okay, so what you see over here is our dashboard. This is FOI Modernization app. This is for controlling all the requests across the province. This is the dashboard view. Now I am going to the request view. Here we have all the statuses, transactional data within an FOI record. I'm just telling you because that's how our app look like. This is the records upload. When administrative reviewer or an FOI analyst uploads a document over here, this is where the trick starts. So this goes to a pipeline. We use event-driven architecture. The pipeline sends the pointer. Document will go and save inside our BC Government S3 storage, and a pointer will go to the queue in Azure as of now, and it will get processed over there, get the OCR, and the extracted data will come back to our system in a Solar Enterprise Search. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do a full text search over here. This is the keyword I have grasped from that document which I shown earlier. You can see it gets searched. Spare me a moment. Yeah. So this is our doc reviewer app. See, now it's searchable. So yes, OCR is working behind the scene. Traditional OCR, which we have already, didn't pick up this document at all because they don't have the capability, unless powered by any kind of AI solution, it will not do a searchable PDF out of it. And this is only a small sample. It works with the normal PDF documents as well. So I'm just skipping this part and I will go into how we did our, this is just a normal PDF just to show it works with both technologies. The first one is using computer vision. The second one is using the doc reviewer, form recognizer, which BC Pension is the same tooling we are using. Yeah. Okay, so this is our AI technical process flow. What we are doing is here, we are ingesting the document. So before we, as I told, before we dive into the entire architecture with Azure, what we are doing is that we do document ingestion and pre-processing, and that's there from our day one, from May 2022 onwards, November 2022 onwards, we have this process in place. Means we will deduplicate it. Why? Because we don't want to process a document again and again for doing all the jobs. So we do have a processing engine and convert into a singular format of PDF. That's our singular format. So whatever docx, it will convert it to PDF, Excel convert to PDF, images will convert it to PDF. And from that PDF, it will go for document extraction. And document extraction, it's using two APIs as of now. One is Azure Vision AI, and other one is Form Recognizer. Once we extract the content from the document, we vectorize it because we need it for full text search as well as for our NLP processing. What kind of NLP processing? That's the current work which is going on. We need to identify the PII, which is personal identifiable information, and second is FOI suggestions. I will explain about what is FOI suggestion. PII in AI is very straightforward. We need to know what is a name, email, date of birth, that kind of details. It's pre-built in any NLP framework. But the most challenging thing for us, which we are investing our time into R&D, is the FOI suggestion. That means in a document, a FOI analyst will redline because we need to redact or sever that section before we deliver into the applicant because it will have sensitive content. So the same content or same sort of content will get redacted over and over again. So that's taking more time, right? So when a reviewer is on the reviewer app, if he gets suggestions, hey, this sentence or similar sentences has been redlined or served earlier in other requests, would you like to apply that for your section over here? So for that, we need NLP processing, means similar folks who are familiar with the AI will know that when we vectorize, we will get the similarity between the words and we can suggest to the user. So that's the current development going. Whatever we delivered using AI OCR is the full text search. Okay, so in this slide, this is the guidelines we followed. On the left side, you see guidelines. I know everybody is from BC Public Service. We need to explain. I don't need to explain about the STRA and the PAM. We have to follow the STRA and PA, abide to that. We'll get approval for whatever we do with AI or any kind of engineering. And adaptability, yes, because we, as Matt mentioned, we started this project in April 2021, and we decided to use our data store as S3 object storage within BC government, and all the AI kind of investment we are doing should refer to that data store. We are not changing our architecture or any microservices we invest, we are not going to change that. And affordability, always, Matt will be taking clock for the money, which I will be doing, and he will match that with what our estimate it's going out, right? And maintenance, because AOT currently works with few developers. Eventually we will move out, and BC government has onboarded most of the developers now from their side, and they should be able to maintain this going ahead. So these are the guidelines I got from my product owner and my director. And technical options, we started with TestRact OCR. Everybody know that it's an open source framework. We started with TestRact OCR and TestRact plus YOLO. YOLO is an object detection model, but it can be used for text detection as well. We started with that, presented, but the problem is that both the option, when I do the build versus buy analysis, it takes more time. Yes, we can achieve the solution with that, but it will take more time, which made us to think about the AI-powered cloud-based solution. So we started with AWS TechStack. At that time, last summer, that was the only approved cloud provider with BC government, following all BC government network policy guardrails. So to the people, it's not like in crowd in ministry. We have to follow BC government guardrails to deploy anything to cloud. And that's not the tendency that we as a project has been created, but tendency has been created by the platform services team for us. And we will use that subscription to deploy our product. So AWS, we started with AWS TechStack, but in the middle, we realized AWS TechStack has its own limitations because it won't work with the remote documents. Luckily, Azure AI or Azure got approval within BC government. That's the second certified cloud provider within BC government. So Azure AI is capable to refer to a remote URL of document, because we have to keep the data at rest within the S3 services, which is certified for all kind of data classification, data protection A, B, and C. Yes, PIC was for Azure AI. We are not endorsing Azure, but in our analysis, Azure AI and AWS TechStack was giving the similar results, but we choose to go with Azure just because of that reason of remote document reference. AWS TechStack won't do that. A detailed analysis video has been published or will get published soon into AOT's LinkedIn page. It will have all code mechanism and approach. So this is the reference I just steal it from internet. So this actually aligns with our analysis. It tells TestRact OCR have very low accuracy compared with other cloud-based AI models. So you can see accuracies where it is measured by a formula called WER, word error ratio. So TestRact was actually giving a very low accuracy if it is not customized. Yes, I challenged that on Stack Overflow. People came back, we can achieve that, but time we have to invest with this many resources to get to that point. If it is a controlled environment, it's easy. What is a controlled environment means we don't control the documents which we get into our application, because we get documents from almost near to 30 public bodies, right?
Yeah, 27, I think. Yeah.
Public bodies. We have no control over it. So that's why. So going forward and the maintenance. So we dumped the idea of an open source because of that particular reason only. Now, this is our application is a massive application. There is no point in showing the entire texture diagram over here. So what I have done is that I took a snap or redrawn our architecture just to explain our cloud AI integration. As you see below the firewall, it's our S3 bucket. We have separate bucket or separation of concern for each and every ministry. And that document, whenever a document gets uploaded, it will get queued up to our own queue. And the queue will get pushed into an Azure compute. Right now we are using VMs, and there was a question running between VMs and serverless function. I totally agree, but in our case, as I told, 1,000-page document only, but it weighs up to 2.5 GB. I tried with serverless function, it didn't work. Container is crashing when the documents are high. So for document extraction job, we used VM just to get the elasticity out of it. So we started with serverless function, but it get timeouts because it's serverless. It goes after 35 minutes. Some documents are very high, very large, so we can't do it with the serverless function. So we didn't offer that. We end up for extraction, we ended up with a VM. Now what happens is that we use document AI, which is the form recognizer, and a combination of computer vision and AI together, because we have images, as I explained, that images sometimes form recognizer won't even reply anything. It considers that as an image. But what we do is that we use computer vision and get the output from that. It will tell there is a text detection and detect the text and pass it over to our event grid for other NLP processing. That's what you are seeing over here. So the extracted content will be passed onto a Solar, but the same content will be passed to language AI for our NLP processing. So right now, the first part, which I just demonstrated, went to production last month. Now ongoing is for PII detection, that's almost over. We are doing into the front-end integration. Now most challenging work is the FOI section detection. That's, we have to understand the language. I have to sit with Matt and his great workforce of FOI analysts to understand why you redline that document. So we need to learn why it is served and customize a model from an existing NLP engine from Azure. So for sure, we are almost sure we'll go with Azure for custom model, but for PII and document extraction, we are using Azure for sure. Yeah. So that's where we are. Yeah. Any questions? I know it's hungry, but. No questions. Thank you.